Welcome to this edition of Dufferin Life. I'm your host, Tina Avery. Thank you so much for joining us. Several times, many times, I've had this gentleman on our show, and we've talked about different plays that come to Theatre Orangeville. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about Theatre Orangeville. Joining us today, we have David Nairn, Artistic Director. David, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Hi, Tina. Always great to see you. Thanks for having me on. It's always great to be able to talk to everybody out in Rogers Land. So thanks.
Well, I'm telling you, your screen looks quite impressive. I feel like I'm underdressed for your theater appearance on our show.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of an ego trip, I think, more than anything. Just that I always wanted to be in movies, and this is the closest I'm ever going to get to it. So, I'm cool with that. But I love what you're doing in the studio. I love the plants. I love the tree. It's looking good. Studio's looking good. Can't wait to get back there live and in person with you.
I know, I am looking forward to it, but I don't want to take up too much time talking about that because we have a lot to talk about today. And we always do, but I want to bring to light some of the programs that Theatre Orangeville does that people may not be aware of. Programs that promote diversity, programs that promote inclusivity. And the first program that comes to my mind is the TOPE program. And I'm going to let you explain what TOPE stands for and what it's all about.
Yeah, there's two programs. We've been working with the neurodiverse community here in our community in Dufferin and beyond for almost 20 years now. And we have developed programs in partnership with Community Living Dufferin. That is our Creative Partners on Stage program, which we call CPOS. We have two companies. One is a musical theater company and one is a play. And that allows people they really celebrate ability. That's what they're about. They're original works that the cast, participants from Community Living Dufferin, Alas, Boss, other organizations, Carrie's Place, that we work with in and around the community. We work with 200 partners in our community, in and around our community. And so it's a program that we've been able to bring forward. It allows people to celebrate abilities that anyone can really walk down stage center on the stage of life and on the stage of the theater and say what they got to say about the world. The casts write the shows with a professional director and choreographer, and we put them on in the theater where we've put them onto our video component of who and what we are. So it's an amazing program, and there's nothing else like it in the country. There is no other theater in the country, professional theater company, that is doing what we are doing when it comes to Canadian work, original work, but again, working with neurodiverse. And TOPE, the Theatre Orangeville Exceptional Players, is a kind of is a complementary piece to that. It's really designed for younger people because, of course, in the world of CLD, you have to be 18 to enter into that world. So when we're working with like DCAFs and organizations like that, we can, the transition for people and for families between, say, an organization that supports them as children to CLD is theater, and it's TOPE. It's the Theatre Orangeville Exceptional Players, the first exposure that allows them to then transition into a program like Creative Partners on Stage at CPOS, or at CLD. So, this is the power of theater and within our community to really affect profound and lasting social change, because the neurodiverse community in any community tends to be the most neglected, the most maligned, regardless of ethnicity of any community. So it's amazing work, and it's not something that everybody in the community knows about. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And as I always strive, is to create awareness for all different types of organizations in this amazing community. So, yeah. And that is amazing work to be done. And you also have youth programs as well. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Oh boy. I mean, since the theater started 26 years ago now, opportunities for youth have always been front and center at the theater. We do the main stage shows that you and I tend to talk about because we want people to come out and enjoy a show. But there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of young people have been through Theatre Orangeville, either to see a show or to participate in an after-school program. Some are young companies, March break. We've got a camp coming up this March break. The after-school programs are starting up again in the spring. Those opportunities, it's not about we're not, as a matter of fact, I do all that I can sometimes to dissuade young people from going into the arts or into theater as a career. Many's the time that's where they're going, and it's wonderful. But it's really just about affording children the opportunity to discover who and what they are and what they want to say about the world. So I've lost count, Tina, of the number of parents who've said to me, I can't believe that's my kid up there. Whether it's part of an ensemble or part of a kid's choir, or playing a lead in one of our Christmas shows or whatever it is, it's those opportunities because, they are our future. They're gonna put to rights. I hope they're gonna put to rights the world that we haven't, right? And anything that we can afford them those opportunities to express themselves, to be creative, and to find their voice in life. That's what those programs are designed to do, and we've been doing it for a super long time.
And you've got a program coming up called You and I, which I think fosters kind of imagination, imitation, and just fosters the beginning of life in the arts. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Well, I mean, the program, we're working with great instructors who all come from their own different, point of view, and because it's about providing different opportunities. So You and I is really something about, it's really for that. It's to introduce younger people to it, because not every kid is a soccer kid. We've talked about this before, not every kid is a hockey kid, and they really need to find their way. And so a program like that, an introductory thing, really lets them get their feet wet, lets them discover what it is. It's like with our kids choir, when we can get them back up and running in these awkward times, when kids feel comfortable in an ensemble, in a chorus, in a choir, when they feel ready to step forward and maybe have a solo line or sing a verse or something like that, it's at their own time. So that's what those programs are really designed to do. And they really, I think we do it quite well in order to really give kids that initial introduction to what the arts are, because that's what's going to nourish them. And ultimately that's what's going to really save us all, right? The reason why we've stayed sane during these times is because of Rogers, is because of, writing a book, reading a book, Netflix, going to the Theatre Orangeville online, all of those things. It's the arts that has kept us sane for the last 2 years. And that's so important for children to discover that.
Absolutely. And just for everybody who's watching, the You and I program is meant for toddlers the age 12 months to 36 months, I believe. So that's starting them young and getting them started on the right foot for creating that imagination.
Sorry, I should have said that. These are little teeny weenies. Sorry, I made it sound like they were like teenagers or something, I guess. But yeah, they are in fact teeny. This is for toddlers. This is for infants to have their first experience with all that magic of what that is. So yeah.
And they get to bring their adults with them, which is an added bonus. For sure. David, you have a program called TYA, Theatre for Young Audiences. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Theatre for Young Audiences is something that our general audience, I'm glad the opportunity, never hears about. Theatre for Young Audiences, we tour into schools, we design shows that address issues that schools and students want to hear about. We've done shows on bulimia, anorexia, alcohol abuse in teens, gender identity, bullying, all of those. And we develop shows that we then tour into elementary schools around our community, 50, 60. Normally we would put actors in a van, take them into the school gym and present the show. That, of course, we haven't been able to do for the last couple of years. So we've been doing it online. We have a brand new show that we will be touring virtually into the schools, an original piece that addresses specifically, this one's around issues of bullying, of children or of young people being bullied by adults. Yeah, so that's an exciting thing. And again, our general theater going public doesn't know anything about it because they're specifically designed for schools and they go into that world. But it's always great to share that messaging. It will be available. The one that we're creating for this spring will be available online to the general public, or if we're going into a school that perhaps somebody who's watching their child or grandchild or whoever, perhaps we're not getting to them, they can go online and they can watch the show. So.
Well, let's get talking about some diversity and why it's important for Theatre Orangeville to bring productions that are diverse and inclusive to Orangeville and Dufferin County.
Yeah, our focus for many years, as I said, has been when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we were talking about specifically the neurodiverse community and how we can allow that community to have voice. I've lived here for 22 years now in Orangeville. I love it. And the community has changed. And we see it every day. We see it in the businesses. We see it in the entrepreneurs. We see it in children enrolling in our programs. The literal face of our community has changed for the better. It's long overdue, and it's a fantastic, it's making Orangeville even more vibrant and even more of a wonderful, wonderful place. And therefore, I believe that the programming that we're doing needs to better reflect our community, needs to better reflect the changing demographic and dynamic of this community. And so we were able to bring a show like Josiah to our audience last summer, about Josiah Henson, and Leslie McCurdy's show, Things My Four Sisters Saw, that Leslie's going to talk, I'm sure, about it, but around, of four dynamic and important women of color that I never knew about, that we can bring those stories forward because they are who and what we are as Canadians and who and what we are as a community. And let's face it, there are people out there who might not come and see this play, Tina, because it's about a Black person. You know what I mean? And that's why we're bringing these stories forward, because that kind of attitude in my community, I don't think it has a place. I don't think that any narrowness of mind. And so it's to bring great theater, terrific, it's wonderfully entertaining, and it's told in a very theatrical and creative way, but it has heart and it has message, and some people may find it disturbing. And I believe that everyone will find it honest and truthful and passionate and from the heart. And what more can we ask for? These are darn great stories about really interesting women who have part of the fabric and who of what this country is that 99% of the country might not even be aware of. And I think those stories, we're starting to develop stories even within our own community, stories of Black and Indigenous members of our community, that those stories have been lost or they've been just not brought forward. And I think those are important. I think we want to tell those stories. We need to tell those stories because they're just really great stories. And they're also something that's very important. I know when I went to school, we've got a show coming up at the end of the season, Crees in the Caribbean. That's, when I went to school, Tina, the only thing I knew about Indigenous peoples was that they, it was Joseph Brant and that, the Iroquois and Father Brebeuf. Like, that was it. So we need to know more about who and what we are and who brung us here. Leslie will talk about it. Her family has been in Canada since 1842. My family's been in Canada for like 40 some odd years. So it's dynamic.
Absolutely, David. And it is so vitally important. And joining us next, we have Leslie McCurdy, the playwright and star of Things My Four Sisters Saw. Don't go away. David and I will be right back.
Woo.
Welcome back to Dufferin Life. We still have David Nairn with us, Artistic Director from Theatre Orangeville, but joining us as a second guest, we have Leslie McCurdy, playwright and actor and star of Things My Four Sisters Saw, coming to Theatre Orangeville. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks.
It's wonderful. We just recently met, and my goodness, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so excited to see the show that's coming to Orangeville. But let's talk about how Things My Four Sisters Saw came about.
Well, I'll try and keep a long story short, but I have a play about Harriet Tubman that I wrote, and I was taking it into schools and performing it. And both teachers and students told me that that was a cool way to write history and asked me if I could write another play. So I had this concept for Things My Four Sisters Saw. And originally I was going to do it on four African American women that I know of. Madam C.J. Walker, who created Black hair care products and hair care techniques. Mary McLeod Bethune, who fought to desegregate schools in the United States in the South. Ida B. Wells, who fought against the lynching of Black people in the States. And Rosa Parks, who of course started the whole civil rights movement by not giving up a seat on a bus. And I was telling a friend of mine that I was going to do that. And he said to me, "Look, Leslie, why don't you do the play on Black Canadian history?" And literally, my first response to that was, "We have that?" Because there was nothing that I'd ever been taught in school or had ever been discussed or anything. I mean, the only thing I knew of in school was that Black people were, uncivilized, heathens who had to be enslaved in order to be, civilized type of thing. And my mother marched up to the schools to make sure those books were taken out of the curriculum right away when I was a kid. So the whole concept of like Black history in Canada, despite the fact my family's been here since 1842, and that's the history of Black people in Canada as it is, was something I had never really thought of before. And he gave me the names of the four women that I portrayed and challenged me to find something out about them and write my play on them. And I took the challenge, and now we have Things My Four Sisters Saw.
David, why don't you tell us why this show is so important to Theatre Orangeville?
Well, first and foremost, the reason why we've got this play coming is it's fantastically great theater, right? It's terrific. It's an engaging story. It's brilliantly told. And it's going to be an incredible evening in the theater. And people are, as Leslie says, people are going to learn a whole lot that we didn't know going in. And what's a better reason to go to the theater than to be moved, to be engaged, to be entertained, but, to come away, I believe, better than when we went in. So that's why it's here.
That's amazing. Leslie, can you tell us a little bit about the four women that you'll be portraying in the show?
Well, taking it in the way I perform them, first I portray Marie-Joseph Angelique, who was an enslaved woman in Montreal who was accused of burning down half of that city. Rose Fortune, who in retrospect was considered the first policewoman in North America. Mary Ann Shadd, who's the first North American woman to publish and to edit a newspaper by herself. And Viola Desmond, who of course is the face of our $10 bill, who took a seat against racial segregation long before the celebrated Rosa Parks that everyone talks about in the United States. In fact, in the States, they like to call Viola Desmond Canada's Rosa Parks, but really Rosa Parks was the American Viola Desmond.
Right on.
Absolutely. So tell me, why a one-woman show?
Well, I kind of just literally tripped and fell into this practice. My background and my original aspirations are in dance. And I was on my way actually to go to New York to apprentice with the third company of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater when I tripped and fractured my hip, effectively ending that, that opportunity. But as I was recovering from that, a friend of mine called me up and literally said, "Leslie, since you're not dancing, you want to try acting?" And he was directing a one-woman play about Harriet Tubman, and he knew that that's my personal hero. So he asked me if I would come and audition for it. I kept saying, "Well, I'm a dancer, not an actor." He said, "You know Harriet Tubman. I think you can do this." Well, he cast me. I found out a little while later that he had always planned to cast me if he could get me to come out to audition because he had a crush on me and it meant we'd be working closely together. But that's actually how I started doing one-woman plays, doing that play. I eventually wrote my own play about Harriet Tubman, maintaining the one-person format since that's what I was comfortable with. And basically that's what I do. Things My Four Sisters Saw is a one-woman play that I wrote. I have a play about Billie Holiday. That's basically a one-woman play, aside from the accompanist, the keyboard, who has, a little bit of a part in the play. But yeah, I just sort of became a monologue specialist.
So does that make it difficult when you are acting in a play with a whole ensemble or cast?
No, I still love to do that every chance that I get. Because I mean, the thing about theater that's so wonderful is the community that it builds. And even though I'm not performing, when I'm at home, I volunteer for a theater company called Arts Collective Theater. And I spend a lot of time immersed in that, community of theater through that. the one thing that's nice about being a solo artist is it's really cool to really easy to organize everybody's travel schedules to tour. You know, and I really get along really, really well with my boss. You know, I do miss doing theater for real, as I'll say.
Wonderful. David, can you tell us a little bit about how the show will be live, what the safety protocols are, and what we have to look forward to coming up in March?
Yeah, of course. As always, we are working with public health and take all our directive from public health as to, we proved over the Christmas show that and in the fall that we believe we can bring people in and out of the theater safely. At the moment, the province of Ontario still, of course, is very strict masking policy, as is in demonstration of full vaccination certificates. We, in the province, we are allowed to go, at the moment, we're allowed to go to 50% capacity. We will not be doing that. We will remain at 40% capacity. What that allows us to do is keep sort of one seat around every sort of pod or group of people, if you will. If you've got 4 people coming, you can all sit together, but there will be sort of one seat in every direction around you. And audiences have made it really clear, Tina, that those kind of safety concerns and considerations they still want very much in place, because we are asking Leslie to unmask and to expose herself in that way to an audience. And so that audience needs to be responsible for her safety. And the fact that she is sharing her gift with us and making herself vulnerable, as all actors do, not just physically with a mask, but the vulnerability of who and what she is, we need to respect that. And we need to be there to do our part to ensure her safety, so that the next night and the next night and the next night, she'll be able to do that. We're also going to be live streaming the show for people who don't feel comfortable maybe coming into the theater. They will be able to see Leslie live as if they were actually sitting in the theater. And we will also do our video capture, which means that somebody could watch a recorded version of the show at 4 o'clock in the morning if they wanted to, around their own schedule and stuff. But that's where we're at. And that's, as I say, it's opening up the 40% we're holding to, because we have people who bought tickets quite a number of months ago with the understanding that the 40% will be held. And we're going to do that because we want to keep everybody safe.
And I know people that I've spoken to are very thankful that you've actually done that, David. And it's exciting that you'll be live streaming, because this is a new undertaking for you to have. So, for those people who are watching it live streaming, if you don't come in till 8:15, you've missed the first 15 minutes.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're watching the live capture at home, you can watch it at 3-4 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if you desire to do so. So there's lots of opportunities to see this show. Leslie, why is this show important?
Well, I really believe that, Canada is made up of a wonderful mosaic of peoples. And if only one color of that mosaic, I just chose color, but if one texture, whatever, is told, then we don't get the whole picture. I use the example of a tossed salad. That's an analogy I like to use. Canada, the United States likes to think of itself as a melting pot where everybody comes there and everybody just fits in and blends in, and in my mind, into almost a pea soup. I like to think of Canada as a tossed salad, where each individual vegetable or fruit that's in the salad is beautiful and tasty and relevant on its own way, individual, but all together it's magnified into a great and wonderful salad that is just, so pleasing and so satisfying, because all of it is, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what I think that Canada is. There are so many different peoples and cultures and that have contributed to our history and to this mosaic. And I think it's really, really important that we all know about all of it. And, the indigenous peoples that were here before us, there's so much we can learn from their culture and their history. The African peoples that were brought here and exploited to build this country, there's so much we can learn from what they created and added to the culture. The Asian people that built the transcontinental railway. There are so many pieces and parts and vegetables that have their own wonderful flavors, people that have their own wonderful contributions. I think it's really important that we recognize that and celebrate that for the beautiful tossed salad, that Canada really is. And this is just a part of one of those stories.
That's amazing. I love that analogy. It's absolutely perfect, because you know what? Every Canadian has an experience, has had history. and all of that should be shared with everyone. So we don't have a lot of time left. So David, I'm going to reach out to you and ask you why people should come to the show.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me what vegetable I felt like. I'm kind of feeling sort of eggplanty these days. I don't know why. I was
going to guess zucchini, David. Zucchini was my guess, but okay, eggplant. Yeah. And in your own special eggplant way, could you tell us why people should come to the show?
Well, because it's a great piece of theater, and these are stories that with a great artist who's sharing these stories, and that's what it's all about. I mean, I go back to this, Dina. I don't know if you can, I think you know what I'm holding up there. My pockets sometimes blessedly have some of these in them. And I thought, who is this person really? Like, why is she on the $10 bill? I kind of knew a basic bit of the story, but, somebody made a decision that this face, this person, this story is on this bill forever. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to discover about who and what we are as a nation. And those kind of stories. And that's why we're doing it. And again, as we try to do all the time, we're just bringing the best theater to our audiences that we can.
Well, that's exactly, I think you just hit the nail on the head, David. It's yes, you're going to learn some history. Yes, you're going to learn some information about 4 amazing women. You're going to see an awe-inspiring actress put all of this together for you, but in the end, it is theater, and I think that's so important to everything. We don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to let everybody know that you can find out information about this at www.theaterorangeville.ca or call the local box office at 519-942-3424. 3424. There we go. And anyways, I want to thank you both very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. And I'm so looking forward to my time in Orangeville.
We
Wonderful.
Can't wait to get you here.
Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Peace.